More money, you got less problems. At least minor ones, all your basics accounted for. Team elite I run with, I'm guaranteed to be Final Four. Less money, you got more problems. More money, you got less problems. At least.
Good evening, back, bringing Albany communities knowledge. Thank you for tuning in with us again tonight. Tonight we have our guest. Tonight's guest is Kashiff Thompson, another childhood friend of mine. We went to school together up in Albany High, attended the Essential Schools program together up there. Like I said, man, me and this guy go way back. And I could not wait to interview you, Kashiff. So first things first, back community. Let's welcome Kashiff Thompson. Thanks for agreeing to allow me to interview you tonight.
Peace, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I was always a little nervous about this. We've been talking about it for a while now.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely excited, and definitely family. So, I appreciate it. And we're not really childhood friends because you're like 10 years older than me. You know what I mean? So, like, let's not act like we're the same age and stuff.
Low.
We go back a long time. Ninth grade, first met you, I used to want to be just like you. You know what I mean? So, definitely, it's like an honor to like still be a part of your life and to be doing things like this with you. So, I appreciate it.
Okay. Hey, listen, man, the love and respect is definitely mutual, brother. And I'm sure we're going to get a chance to dive in how we later intertwined and got to work together through Model. So, but first things first, like I said, man, thank you for agreeing to interview with me tonight. And I look forward to telling your story because your path and your story, I think, is unique all within itself.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, listen, man, before we get into your formal questions, my first unofficial question that I ask everybody is, how have you and your family been doing during this quarantine season? We've now been officially quarantined for a year. How have you and the family been surviving? Have you guys been doing anything creative? How has COVID-19 impacted you and your household?
Well, we've been doing really well for the most part. It's definitely challenging for me. Having with Nye working like on the front lines, I worry a lot, especially in the beginning, about her possibly like getting infected with COVID, then bringing it home, and but she's been like super safe. Before she like walks in, she stops outside and kind of changes and sprays herself down, and so she's been very careful. So we've been doing all right. We've been managing to kind of like change things around a lot. So. We started homeschooling our daughter Riley, and so that's kind of been the best thing about this quarantine, I guess, or this whole unfortunate pandemic, is that it put me in a position to do something that I've always wanted to do. Like I always dreamed about being able to homeschool Riley, and really and this helped me realize that I always had the opportunity to do it, and it just kind of apply some pressure to me now, and realizing that what they were doing through virtual learning just wasn't really working. It wasn't really effective. And so that's kind of like the best thing about this entire pandemic is being able to start homeschooling our daughter and moving forward with that. Other than that, though, we've been doing well. We've been hanging in there.
Okay. I'm going to say, out of all of the parents I've interviewed thus far, you are definitely the first one that said that how excited you were to be able to take this opportunity to homeschool your child, because the rest of us be like, when is school opening back up? When is daycare opening back up? So that is dope within itself, to have a passion, to be able to want to homeschool your child and to be able to live it out. But yeah, you definitely the first person with that level of enthusiasm for that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Like she gets on days that I do have to go into work, she comes in and she has like an office right next to mine. And, nobody uses it, so I have a little name tag, a sign there for her, and she goes in there, does her work, comes out when she needs to. It's a really like friendly environment. It's an academic environment, obviously being at the university. So I enjoy it. I enjoy like every Sunday, like setting up her curriculum for the week and like exploring different topics and signing her up for different programs. There's so many resources out there For science, we use this group called Lab Rascals, and they do a series of scientific experiments and topics, workshops. So there's a lot of programs out there. So I hope that we can keep this going long term. They actually started back up at school today, at her old school, and I don't really want to send her back there. So
okay,
hopefully we can keep this going.
Okay. Well, listen, man, best wishes with that, because like I said, I can only imagine, one, how time consuming that is, but two, I can imagine how rewarding it is, because you get to be the sole controller what information your child is taking in. So shout out to both you and I with that one, because like that, that is work all by itself, my brother.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, give me 2 seconds here.
Right.
Well, actually, I'll go ahead and hit you with your first question. So I know I gave you a brief introduction, but here's your first question. What kind of passion projects what kind of work do you do? What kind of passion projects are you working on? Kashiff, here's your opportunity to tell the Albany community about you.
All right. Well, I guess prior to the pandemic, I was still working in like mediation and kind of training in youth mediation and restorative justice. But now that the pandemic started, and I had another incident where I had to kind of take a step back for health reasons. So I haven't been able to travel up to New York. So prior to that, I was traveling up to New York every month, maybe even twice a month, to do some trainings and to still do some mediation. So that's kind of like really a passion of mine, helping young people, young students, young adults resolve conflict through communicating. Helping parents and children resolve their conflict through communicating, helping a student or a kid or a family heal through the restorative justice or restorative practice process. So that's been a huge passion of mine, and that's something that I've been doing for a number of years now. But as far as for work, I'm working down here at the university at a research center, and what I do there is I copy edit. And and help kind of research when they write their papers and they want to submit papers to be published. They kind of send them to me and I copy edit them, make some suggestions, send it back. And then I also co-coordinate a seminar. We do weekly seminars throughout the semester where we have economists come. Now it's virtual though, and speak on things, whatever their topic is regarding economics. It could be economic history. Like one guy, he spoke on witchcraft, and that's kind of what he studies under an economic framework. It's wild. So stuff like that. And then, but the reason I actually kind of came down here from Albany was, I applied to like different schools because I wanted to continue my education, but I wanted to do it for free. So I need to get a job at different schools. And I was hired through George Mason University. And so my goal there was to complete my PhD. So that's kind of what really brought me down here. So kind of working towards that and working as a copy editor, and then still doing mediation and conflict resolution stuff. But I won't be doing that until after the pandemic and kind of start back up and figure out how we can, meet together and have these safe spaces for those conversations. Because I don't think they really work virtually. So, that's kind of.
Hey, listen, almost everything else has changed and adapted to a virtual setting. Courtrooms.
True, yeah.
What was it? This last week, just watching the one guy who had the snafu on Zoom. He's talking to the judge, and someone changed his profile to the cat. So
and he wouldn't change it back. Yeah. So, I mean, you're right. So I think I'll definitely have to adjust to that. That'll be difficult, but I'll definitely have to adjust to that. But it's great, like doing that work and being. I don't want to go on too long, but I really enjoyed that work and being able to train young students in conflict resolution and restorative justice, mediation, and I had a lot of them going out there and kind of doing the work for us. And then through that, there was an aspect of mentoring to that. and you know, being able to open up programs and build relationships with a lot of these young students, these young people, and relationships that are still very strong today. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, still being a mentor to them. So.
Listen, and I'm probably gonna speak out of turn, but you know, one of the things that I'm most proud about in regards to seeing your own growth is to see how passionate you have become in the field of mentoring, because I remember as clear as day.
Wait, let me interrupt you. Remember, we were sitting in a car or something, and I was telling you like, yo, this mentoring stuff ain't for me. Like, I can't do it. Like, I mean, I remember having this conversation with you, and like you just encouraging me, like, yo, you have a story. Somebody can appreciate your story. You know, like I remember that conversation. So like, it's really a lot of my work is an extension of you. And the thing that you instilled within me, the confidence you instilled within me to be able to go out there and mentor and have these relationships, but to be myself, right? To be myself and realize that the bond is going to be there and it's going to be stronger because they can see the authentic self, right?
There you go.
So that's, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, I'm thinking about that time in the car. And so, yeah, that's definitely something. It's definitely an extension of the work that started in Motto, right?
Listen,
like,
that's exactly where I was going with it. Either way, I was definitely about to tell that story. But like I said, man, even over the years, just seeing how connected you got throughout the Capital District area with the youth and how passionate, I mean, literally how passionate you have become engaging with the community and with the youth on that is really dope. And, you know, I mean, as a friend, as someone who's seen you get involved with it early on, shout out to you because it takes a person with a huge heart, because you end up having to sacrifice a lot trying to showcase or put on for other people. You know what I mean? Just like, yo, you can be a lot more than what you think that your limits are. You know what I mean? So shout out to you for that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And one, like I said, I'm sure it'll probably tie in at some point, but you know what I mean, even mediation, you know what I mean, that was a similar love and passion that we both have too. That was my first job out of college, working for Mediation Matters. Years later, we both ended up working for the same place, and it's such a huge tool and a bridge builder that can be used and utilized. So, you know what I mean, you have some amazing tools at your disposal, and I'm just happy that you're using it and being able to share it with other people to help them and to help them to heal on their path and their journey to grow.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of work in those few years, just restoring relationships and just like preventing things from escalating to the point of like life-changing, you know, to a point of a kid making a life-changing decision where, you know, multiple families are going to be affected, you know, like we being able to intervene and being able to partner with people in the community, like a lot of it's Schenectady and Albany and even in Troy, but like being able to connect and partner with different people in the community and come together and figure out how can we help these kids before, you know, it gets too late, right? Not too late, but before they get to that point where they're going to really have a long-term, you know, issues because of the decisions they're going to make. So that, I mean, I'm really, really proud of that work. And just the fact that a lot of them still call me today to just tell me, one of the kids called me to tell me that they're getting an apartment. You know, what do I think about that? Right. So just be somebody they go to for that. Another one runs a business. Another one is a realtor, right? They're graduated college. One's in couple of them in graduate school. One's getting ready for medical school, and they're calling me and they're just having these regular conversations with me and just picking my brain. And you know, I just love that. I really do love that they are allowing me to like be a part of their life still.
Listen, man, one, it's a no-brainer because, you know, one of the things I told you too was that, you know, your story is strong enough just by itself. When you open up and share who you are, you know what I mean, you'll realize that there's somebody that will connect with you right away, just because their story is going to be similar. And like running model together, that was kind of like one of our strong points. You know what I mean? There was, several of us, but each of us had our own strong points. It was like, there are going to be some people that flock to you. There are going to be some people that flock to Malcolm, some flock to Scooby, some that'll flock to me. And it was like, everyone had strengths and strong points. And that's the same thing with the people that you're working with now, man. I'm just like, your skills are more so needed now, seeing what's going on, especially after a tumultuous year that Albany has had last year. You know what I mean? And it's a continuation over to 2021 already. So imagine having more de-escalation skills. So people, we're talking about alternative dispute resolution, de-escalation, conflict resolution, whatever you want to call it, all comprised underneath mediation. These skills are what we need to be able to have to not only just for the youth, but even for adults to be able to de-escalate situations. So.
Very, even in marriages, very useful.
Facts.
But just touching on Albany and like what's been happening there, like that's the hard part. It's like how can we reach more kids before they get to that point where they feel like they have to pick up a gun and handle it that way. Like I'm always wondering, what are we not doing right to reach this other group of kids? Like, how can we go further with this work? And that it's very tough because I've lost several. And this is the flip side of it. Several students have been killed that have come through my program while in my program, and so that is like that's tough, right? That's the stuff where we're always kind of figuring out what can we do differently, what can we do better, what can we do as a community. I feel like the resources are there, but there's just something missing that's not penetrating the way we need it to. And I guess I'm just kind of rambling on. I'm talking like we're talking offline right now, but that's a very touchy subject because I think about that often, especially with like a couple of students of mine that have been killed when I know like it could have been prevented. And man, and I just know that I know they knew how to prevent it. You know what I mean?
But, it's definitely a touchy situation, and it is something that it'll come back in one of the later questions. Like I said, man, being able, like, part of this platform is being able to tell people about the different resources that are out there, the different techniques that we could utilize to be able to help other people. And it was just like, some people would look at mediation and they'll say, well, what's mediation? It's like, you don't really realize how dope it is until you start to utilize the skills of it. Be like, oh, really? Yeah. And it's like me, I started thinking I could fix every situation. And be like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Throw me in there. I can fix it. You know what I mean? So we really want to encourage other people to learn about those skills and learn how to apply them in real life situations. Because if you can learn how to either de-escalate a situation or maneuver yourself from out of a situation, or seeing it about to turn into something and saying, you know what, it's not even worth it. You just stepped on my sneaker, you smudged my Puma. Okay, it's cool. Let me just get out of here. But man. But let me see, man. I'm gonna get to you. I always tell everybody it's my favorite question for anyone I interview for back. What is your favorite place to visit in Albany and why?
Well, besides my mom's house, visiting parents and stuff, it would have to be Umana on Washington Ave. Man, I don't know the exact address. Lower Washington Ave, though, Umana. It's the best restaurant I've ever been to. The staff is great. The owner, she's wonderful. Food is delicious. But I mean, for me, I don't know, the older I get, especially now with the way things are, I really enjoy, I really value safe spaces, right?
Yeah.
And Umana is a safe space for me. I can go there, I can be myself, I can let my guard down, I don't have to worry about anything, I can say what I want to say. I can converse the way I want to converse. I bring it's like a meeting spot for all my mentees when I come back. Like I go to Umana, and you want to see me, you got to come here to Umana. You know, I'll buy dinner, but you come here. I bring their parents with me there. Like, so
Nice.
that's my like home. But again, what's important to me is that it's a safe space for me. And that's something I really value. And the staff, they make me feel welcome. They make me feel at home there. So I love that place. If I lived there, I'd be there every Friday night. Whenever I go up to Albany, I stop there and I pick up food now. Now my mom calls me and says, "Hey, I want Umana," so I gotta call up there and have it sent to her. Before the pandemic, when I was going to Albany, I wouldn't even tell people I would get there on a Friday, so I can just kind of chill and go to Umana and be left alone. And then I'll tell people I'm there on Saturday because I want it, you know. So and then also, like, you know, people want to feed you. So I gotta lie and be like, I'm not here. So I don't want to offend anybody when I don't take their food because I'm taking Umana. So yeah, so aside from the food, just the space, the owner, the people there, they do a great job of creating a safe space. And I'm sure not just for me, I'm sure it's for everybody that that goes in there. I'm sure they feel the same.
Nice.
I love that place. Love that place. And I love the owner too. So,
okay. Hey, listen, man. Hey, shout out to Umana. I have never been, but it is on my radar right now. It is on my radar.
So good. So I've had everything on that menu. Even like for that time when I was a vegetarian, like before that, like everything on that menu I've had delicious. Everything. Okay. So,
okay. Yeah. Interviewing Deanna a couple weeks ago, she definitely had alluded to her, and I was like, well, listen, you know, I'm interviewing Kashiff in a couple weeks, and I'm sure that's going to be his place. Yep. So, but thank you for going into the detail about it, because one, like I said, I never even I never knew about it, but it's on my radar now, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I first walked in there and like. The owner there, she was there, and she talked to me as if I've known her forever. First time walking in there, she was welcomed me with open arms, and it just the feeling I get there, I don't get anywhere else outside of like family, and you know, again, it's just a safe space. So I value that. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I got a question for you. Kashiff, thinking of your younger self, what is something that you wish someone would have told the younger Kashiff?
Wow. You know, I'm sure a lot of people told me, I just didn't listen. You know, like I had my uncle who would tell me things sometimes. Teachers would tell me things, I'm sure. My god brother, Andre, I look up to him a lot. I mean, I'm sure he told me things I needed to know. I just don't know if I listened. And so it's hard for me to really answer that question that way. I can't really say what I wish someone would have told me, because I really think people told me the things I needed to know. I just don't think I listened. I don't think I was ready to hear it. Or maybe they just didn't convey the message in a way that I was receptive to. But, you know, I'm sure they told me what I needed to know. But I guess I would, you know, kind of just... I wish it was kind of reinforced more that it was okay to like be who I was, right? Like just be yourself. I think so. Instead of just what message I wish somebody would have told me, I maybe wish it would have been reinforced more that it's okay to be yourself.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, but I'm sure even you, you know, you told me things, you didn't listen. So I'm sure people told me what I needed to know.
Hey, you have told me things, and I know for a fact I didn't listen. So, you know, nothing happens before it's time is the way that it goes.
Well, you're a Virgo, right?
I'm Virgo.
Right? And y'all know everything. So there's no need to tell you anything. You know, neither Virgo. You know, and so, you know, there's no point in telling y'all anything. Y'all just know y'all are the most pragmatic people on the planet. So, yeah. So, shout out to the Virgo.
Yeah, shout out to the Virgo. That's right. Shout out to the Virgo. Best sign in the world. Yeah, we over analytical. Yeah, we will not let something rest, but we are passionate and we care. And once we realize that, you know, we can drive our own selves crazy, then you can start to walk it back a little bit and figure out where, you know, you need to stop and let some stuff go.
But that might be admitting that you're wrong, and I don't think y'all do that.
Oh no.
Well, Nye hasn't gotten there yet. So Nye hasn't gotten there yet. So.
Hey, listen, the female Virgos and the male Virgos are a little bit different.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah, I'll let her know that. Yeah.
Let me see, man. I'm gonna ask you an education question. One, you know, what I mean, for those of you who don't know Kashiff, he's a huge history buff. So do you think that education saved you and opened up doors for you? Why or why not?
Yes. And yeah, saved me. Can you elaborate? When you say saved me,
like you know, like sometimes people would use the analogy that, you know, like thankful for school, I was able to get out of my neighborhood, or, you know, my school brought me on different trips to explore and see different things, or, you know what I mean, like for me, you know what I mean, school was my way out of my everyday lifestyle of what I was doing or running the streets would always be, or my experiences there. It was like school opened up the opportunity for me. So when I'm asking about, do you think that it saved you or opened up doors for you, is like, how would you envision your life without education?
Okay, yeah, okay, got you. Yeah, definitely, especially a little later on, so around maybe like 25, between like 24, 25 is when it really started for me, I guess. Definitely though, because school helped give me more confidence to be myself, right? So after going through everything I went through and kind of those growing pains, right? Finally, and then kind of still being able to go and pursue my education, I really immersed myself in it, and I really committed myself to it. And throughout that process, it just helped me become more confident in myself, and it put me on the spot, right, to be myself and kind of like commit to like self-discovery, if that makes sense. So for me, I would say yes, definitely very crucial to my development. I don't know where I would be without it. Not even in terms of just career, but just in terms of like just who I am as a person. I don't think without education, whether it was a community college, undergrad, Harvard, Mason, wherever I've been able to study at, each part just was a part of the building block into who I am today, and to help me be not only comfortable with who I am today, but just help me enjoy the process of getting to know myself and being able to expand on ideas and access to information, and being able to find a love for history and even mathematics and economics, all these things I love now. And they were always there, but being able to pursue my education kind of helped bring it out.
Nice. Nice. And shout out to that your pursuit when you were studying there at Harvard. One, because I remember the struggle, you know what I mean? He's like, yo, you know what I mean? He's commuting back and forth from Albany to Boston to make that educational opportunity happen. And so, you know, when I talk about education, you know what I mean, I'm looking at your background. You have a strong, you have quite a library there, as I'm looking at some of the books behind you. I think that's Tyson's new joint too. Yeah. So I know, I can imagine how important education is to you. So, you know, I'm gonna dive more into the educational questions with you, because I really want to see, you know what I mean, how you developed, how you came to be the Kashiff that I know today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
you know what I mean? I know what happened to a Black Republican. You know what I mean? But,
I know. We gotta get on that. Yeah, let's do it.
Let me see. Do you feel that you were miseducated at all going through the Albany City School District? If so, when did you recognize that? And maybe I can rephrase it for you too, because one, I think you might have touched on it earlier, even with Nye. You know what I mean? With Riley, because now you get a chance to input your own curriculum. So do you think that you were miseducated by the schools you went to in Albany schools? Why or why not?
Yeah, definitely. But I not even just Albany. I mean, up until K through fourth grade, I was at Catholic school. You know, it's 5 black kids in the whole school. My brother, myself, and my cousin, you know, we made up a 3 of the 5, right? So in that environment, certainly African American history, for instance, was kind of non-existent, right? It was literally slavery, and that's it. And I don't even recall us touching on like Martin Luther King Day or the typical people that you would study, right? So just kind of it was. I don't want to say it was overtly and covertly, right, shown to us that we were inferior, right? And that was not only through like discourse, but that was through the curriculum that we were receiving at that school, right? So now moving on to Albany City School District, I think by that time we had already been indoctrinated with this inferior complex, right? Inferiority complex. So certainly we were miseducated up throughout high school, even in college in some regards to the things that they teach us, right? So, I mean, you really have to, it takes a lot of like self-discovery, I think, right? And you have to kind of take on that challenge on your own to kind of find out, to learn more about your history, your true history, the history of like African people, for instance, where we come from. I mean, one thing that really stands out is how they separated Egypt from Africa, right? Like growing up, at least in the school that we went to, Egypt was kind of separate from Africa, where Egypt was this place where a lot of great pyramids were built, a lot of great things happened, but it wasn't Africa. That's kind of like how we were kind of taught in that school anyway. And these were these 75-year-old white nuns who were just terrible to us in every sense of the word, just terrible. So we kind of got the short end of the stick up until about 5th grade. And it was still kind of bad then too, actually. I mean, I only had one good teacher prior to high school, and that was my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Williamson, and Mrs. Bryan now. And she was kind of like, if I don't know if I would have completed high school had I not met her along the way, right? Because what she did was not only instill this love for education, but she also gave me confidence, showing me that I can do it, not holding me accountable. I think a lot of times teachers, especially for some reason, white teachers with black teachers, or white teachers with black students, they don't necessarily hold them as accountable. Where this teacher, Mrs. Williamson, Mrs. Bryan now, she made sure that whatever we went through in the outside world, that was the outside world. But when we come into this classroom, you're going to do not only the best that you think you can do, but you're going to do the best that I know you can do, right? And so she really committed herself to bringing out the best in all of us, not just myself, but all of us. So I think, long story short, though, I guess, I definitely think I was miseducated along the way throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school. And if it wasn't for a few teachers, I don't think I would have finished high school because I didn't really see a value in it at certain points. So,
okay. Yeah, and you asked you made a statement, and in the statement it was just like, you noticed how white teachers didn't hold black students accountable the same way that some other people might not. And
some whites, not all, but some.
Some white teachers, right? Yeah. So, and the reason why I'm saying it is that even I think, and I hope it's not me making excuses, but I think the older that I get now, I also take into consideration the other variables too. So I think that there are some that don't hold black students accountable, but I also think that it probably comes from a place of just realizing that there's a lot of other variables that these students that they're intertwined with or coming to their classes every day that have to deal with that take precedent over learning every day. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it takes just to get to a mature place to extend the conversation a little bit further than just you don't hold me accountable or you didn't hold them accountable. Because like I think me and Jason Coleman was talking about it before. It's just like he was the first person I interviewed on here, and we were just talking about like there's so many variables that students in urban communities have to deal with on a regular basis. Whether it's not knowing if we're gonna have a home to go to, if we're gonna be evicted, if there's gonna be electricity, having to take care of siblings, having to take care of parents. There's so many different variables that are there on top of having to be able to come in and perform when you might not be confident about your level of performance educationally. So
and I agree, and I think for some reason Miss Williamson, she was kind of aware of that, but she was able to work around it, or she really committed herself to ensuring that when you're in this classroom, again, a safe space. This is a safe space where we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you meet your expectation, right? And so, all these other variables exist, right? But I think that's not necessarily an excuse for a teacher to, not correct an essay with a bunch of run-on sentences, right? Where working in the school system, I've seen teachers kind of just not really make a big deal out of these little things. And then when kids get to college, they kind of, they don't do as well because they weren't adequately prepared in high school. And I think the reason they're not prepared is because sometimes teachers feel sorry for students or for whatever other reason. And there are real reasons to be extra compassionate for students and empathetic towards what these students are dealing with. But I think that there should still be more responsibility.
I agree.
On teachers. Yeah. So
I agree.
And that's not to bash teachers or anything like that. There are obviously some great teachers. These teachers some of the teachers that I had. I did something on Facebook where I talked about like my 5 best teachers. And what was great about them is that not only did they like hold me accountable, but they were able to kind of meet me where I was. Right. Like I talked about Miss C, and I just didn't like art. So I would come in there and I would just be an asshole. And instead of like just saying I don't like art, I just don't get it. I'm colorblind actually, but she didn't know that, right? I was just being an asshole. So, but I like to write. So what she did was she met me where I was at. Right. She said, all right, how about you just write me essays about an artist or something like that. And that's what I would do for art class. I would sit there and just kind of write essays, right? And so, she accommodated me. She didn't really have to, but she didn't make a big deal out of something where where some teachers might say, well, they'll just keep kicking me out every day. No, she kind of met me where I was, figured out what I can do to get past this class, and we made it work. So that's just kind of one example. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, listen, man. And a shout out to Miss C, because she did the same thing for me. If I go upstairs right now, I still have 2 journals from freshman year of Albany High, might have been freshman, sophomore year of Albany High, from Miss C's class. And she used the same trick for me, because art, I'm like, what am I doing in the art class, man? Nobody want to do no art. But what she did was she tapped into my interests. She was like, well, Tyrell, you're always in here listening to music and you're talking about music. So she said, so why don't you, create a book that highlights the music that you like? And, so I created journals that had Tupac lyrics and Tupac pictures all through in the journals. And she's showing me how to put acrylic over the stuff to protect it and all of this stuff. So she got me hooked in the art, by utilizing what I like. And Mr. Benson did the same thing to me in math class. It was like, I remember my first class with him, maybe my first couple of classes with him, he was just like, Mr. Benson was always quirky, right? But what he did was he told me this thing. He said, he knew I liked Tupac once again. So two of the same teachers used Tupac against me. So he knew I liked Tupac, and he was just like, he said, well, listen, he said, Tyrell, you like Tupac? So he said, well, you know, Tupac's got a song called "Do for Love," right? He said, have you ever seen the title? I mean, the credits of who's on that song with Tupac? He was like, he said, go look it up. So I went to go look it up, and it was just like, you know, we didn't have access to it on the phone at the time then, so you had to wait till you go to the computer lab or something like that, or
like,
go home. You know what I mean? Not like now.
It was,
yeah. So listen, I went back, I found it, and it said George Benson. So it was George Benson and Tupac. So when I came back to class, I was like, so he was like, yeah, so what was the name of the person who did the song with Tupac? He's like, George Benson. I was like, is that you? You know, and so that was like the running joke, because I don't think he ever really told me that it wasn't him, it was another George Benson. But you know what I mean, just that alone got my attention. So just like you were saying with was it Miss Williams?
Miss Williamson,
Miss Williamson or Miss C. Different teachers, like you said, they will meet you where you are and realize that, you know, not just to buy into the loud person that's trying to go ahead and get disruptive or get kicked out of my class. You know what I mean? Let me be able to see past that. And there's a lot of jewels behind the initial wall that we put up. So shout out to those teachers in the world. Like
in hindsight, sure, I should have just did my work and, you know, not been an a-hole, right? But at the same time, you know, we're 14, and this is what 14-year-olds do sometimes, and so, you know, they were able to really work with us, right? But you know, with Miss Williamson too, just I think just that was also like my first time having a Black teacher, and it was again, it was life-changing. But I noticed everything about her was different. Like her approach to teaching was different. How she spoke to us was different. How she spoke to the parents, different. She corrected me on everything, but she did it in a way that didn't belittle me, right? Like she didn't talk down to me. She talked me up. Like I remember her to this day. She wouldn't let anything slide, like my T's. If my T's weren't high enough, my lowercase T's weren't high enough, she would make me rewrite everything, you know. And it's just because she knew that, like, I am better than this, right? So why are you going to give me, right? Why aren't you going to give me your best, right? Like, you know, I'm giving you my best, you give me your best. And so there was that real commitment there. And I picked up on that at 11 years old, right? That she was really committed to us. At 10 years old, and then, or like 11 years old, and then I had a student teacher who was Black. Her name was Miss Brown. I never forgot her. She used to sing and stuff, right? She was another one that, even just as a student teacher, we only had her for a few months, right? But I really felt like we were in this together, right? And you can really feel her commitment to us, and that made all of the difference, you know. So. I think the schools though did a terrible job with us overall, especially with the curriculum and stuff. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. Actually, I'm gonna stick with it for here. What role do you think racism played during your early education from kindergarten to 12th grade, if any?
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I'll say racism, right? So I want to be like a scientist, right? And my mom would, there was a store in the mall, World of Science or something. I don't remember the name of it, but some kind of science store in Colony Center Mall. So my mom would always go there, and she would always like save up money and get me all these little science projects that I can do at home. And I remember, you know, showing my science teacher that, I think it was in first grade. She's like, well, you're not going to be a scientist when you grow up. And just like that, I was like, okay, well, I'm done with science, right? I don't know if that's racism, but I again, being the only Black kid there, I don't know if she would have said that to anybody else, right? Like, and the way she said it to me was just so cold and so dismissive and so cruel. Again, I was in first grade, and so I never forgot that. And at that moment, I threw away science. all my science stuff, and I just never wanted to do it again. So like that's one way like I know that it affected me like personally. But are you asking like in terms of like the overall like curriculum and how that?
No.
No.
Just as you answered.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean that's something that really like stands out to me. Other than that, like I don't really know. I'm sure racism played a huge role in how I was educated, specifically in terms of just like the curriculum that they gave us. It wasn't centered around. I'm going to use my words carefully. Yeah, definitely. It wasn't.
No, I like your answer. It actually made me think about what Crystal Word, Crystal Word had said too, and she was just like, racism did play a huge part in her early development, but it also inspired her to be a teacher. Just like, I don't ever want something that happened to me to happen to somebody else. And, I think that's the story of Blacks, African Americans, end up taking situations, and it's actually biblically too. It's in the Bible, things that are supposed to be used to hurt you or to bring you down end up becoming tools that are going to sharpen you and strengthen you. So like she used that experience to propel her to become an educator, and also realized how she felt. And that's how she interacts with her students on a day-to-day basis, so.
Yeah, no. And I wish I had that reaction, right? Like I've never, and I realize this like later on, but I'm not the guy that can find inspiration in hate, or not saying that's what she did. That's not, I don't mean it like that, but like, I don't get inspired by like having haters. I don't get inspired by doubters or negative comments. I get inspired by people, by having people believe in me, right? And like I always like one of like a mantra like is like, or something like I'll constantly like remind myself is like, I'm not gonna do something to prove the wrong people wrong, right? I'm gonna do something to prove the right people right. So if you doubt me, I'm not gonna work hard so I can prove you wrong, right? But if this person believes in me, I'm gonna put all my energy into working hard so I can prove you right, like as like a thank you, or like
I like that
appreciation, or so I'm committed to the people that believe in me, right? And so not having that in school at an early age was very detrimental to me. So not having that at all until I got to 6th grade. And by then, like that's the age you start model, right? Because that, around 11, because that that's a crucial age for men specifically, right? So I really didn't have that until I got to 6th grade. And then, I didn't really have it again until I got to high school. I felt like there were a couple of teachers that really did believe in me. But so I mean that is an example of how just like structural racism has impacted me, because that is really why these schools there aren't a lot of Black teachers, or at least there weren't a lot of Black teachers at the time. So.
Okay. Let me see. Sadly, and actually, I mean, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I know it's a sensitive topic, but we're gonna, as my coworker likes to say, we're gonna double back to this one. Sadly, Albany has seen more and more violence, and our communities has experienced a lot of loss over the years. Definitely with 2020, and 2021 is starting off not in a great direction. But what changes would you like to see for the city, Kashiff? What is your hope for Albany?
I mean, my hope is just really wrapped up in the result, like the end game. I don't really know what changes because I'm not there on a day-to-day basis. It's really hard for me I think it's kind of inappropriate of me to kind of sit there and suggest what things that need to change, because I do know that there are a lot of people working at the ground level. I don't know if everybody's working together. I don't know if that's the case, but I mean, I know that a lot of politicians aren't really being held accountable. I know that there is just a lot of theater politics, right?
Yep.
So there's not. So I know that gets in the way. I don't think that the interest of I don't think that they a lot of the politicians that are in office now really have the best, really care about African Americans in the community as much as they should. I don't think I don't think we're prioritized.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot. I don't really know what to say because I'm not really there on a day-to-day basis. So I don't really know if it'll be appropriate for me to say. But I do hope something changes soon. I know that the programs are there, the resources are there. There are a lot of people there with pure heart that really want to make a difference. I don't know. I think it's something just deeper, you know.
It's interesting that you say you think that the resources are there. Sorry to jump in, but because you're the first person that I've heard that says that the resources are there. A lot of the other people I've gotten a chance to interview thus far, they always ask the question like, Rel, what happened with all of the resources? What happened with all of the community centers that we had? It used to be a community center in every section that you went to. And he was just like, what happened to those places? But I know you got a different perspective on it, especially through your ties and mediation and getting out in the community and working. So you're saying that we still do have resources that are readily available.
Yeah, and you know, that's a great point, right? Yeah. I think now that when I guess by resources, I mean, I know that there are a lot of people that are working together to make the changes that are necessary, right? I don't know if they have that structural support that's needed, right? I don't know if everybody's working together. I don't know if everybody's working, like if everybody worked together, then they might have these spaces, these tangible resources that kids can go to, right? To like team night or something like that. I don't know why we don't have those like we used to have, right? So I think when we were growing up, we had the places to go to, right? But if we got in trouble, we kind of had to just figure it out, right? I know today that when kids get in trouble, there's more of a safety net there. Okay. Right. But the problem is that there's no place to prevent these kids from getting in trouble, right? So there's that part is missing now. But I know I work with quite a few kids to help them get a YO as opposed to being getting a felony, for instance, because when they're at the time of the crime they were 17, right, and could be charged as an adult. And I've worked hands-on in several cases to help these kids. I don't think that was really there when we were growing up. Okay. So I guess there are resources to kind of help kids from the long-term effects of their actions, right? But yeah, I guess that there aren't really a lot of places for kids to go to. So yeah, I really don't know. Okay. I do think that whatever it is it's deeper than just organizations not working together. And I always think about the 10-year-old girl who was killed, Katina Thomas, and just remember it was like a community gun, right? And fast forward to me working in Schenectady, and just with the kids that I knew, I knew who had guns, I knew where these guns were, and we did a lot to try to get these kids to turn these guns in. I mean, we did a lot of work, and I never really spoke about this before, but we were able to get a lot of guns out of a lot of kids' hands. But I say all that to say that, you know, working with these kids and working with these people in the community, there's no way that the Albany Police Department didn't know that gun was there. So, you know, there's just no way they didn't know that gun was there. So what are they really doing to protect the community, right? Granted, that was, what, 12, 13 years ago? But like I said, a couple years ago, me working in Schenectady and throughout the Capital District, we knew what was happening. We were able to get on top of a lot of stuff, right? There's no way they didn't know that gun was there. So, you know, there's that.
Okay. And I mean, there's so many you keep talking about how you don't know if everyone's working together, right? It seems like a thing you're touching on, right? And the reality is that Albany is a small community. The Capital District is a small area in the larger scheme of things when you start to get out and travel, right? So imagine if, so we can go back to the question, like, what's your hope for the city, right? Imagine if everyone worked together. Imagine if everyone realized it was enough space, it was enough success, it was enough notoriety for everyone. Imagine if, you know what I mean, the resources that you have, you'll say on the back end to help people get out of situations are now tied together with the resources to stop it from happening in the first place. Imagine if. So.
Yeah, that I don't think that that's hard to imagine under this structure where you have a majority of people who I think are inherently evil and want to perpetuate this crime. So I don't. I imagine that would be great, but it can't happen unless there is a real separation of people, because the people that are in control now, or the people that are governing, you know, our community, don't have the best interest of our people, and I think that's been shown through every administration, right? Every mayor we've had, every police chief, right? You know, so you know, there's that.
Okay, and you know, I'm not trying to poke the bear, but I'm gonna say this too. Is like, sometimes we put a lot of emphasis, and you know me, we've worked together. We've outside of work, we just rap. So, but a lot of times, you know, we can put emphasis on other people. We give other people and other entities way more credence than what they actually deserve. Imagine if, we'll go back to that imagine if statement again. Imagine if, you know what I mean, we took control. Imagine if, you know what I mean, when there was egregious fouls that happened in the streets, you know what I mean, it was just like, nah, this isn't happening in our community anymore. Imagine if it'll be less and less of a need for other people's intervention, because we're coming to our own rescue. And, you know, imagine.
So we've tried to do that. I mean, that's what demonstrations are, right? That's us trying to regain some sort of control of our community, but they're met with military force, right? Okay. Like, I mean, I think so anyway. I mean, I think a lot of demonstrations are really us trying to call for action, right? But they refuse to kind of give up the power and put it in the community's hands. Because, you know, whoever can come to that conclusion, but I think there's been a lot of effort to do just that, and I think the structure that exists makes it impossible.
Okay.
Okay. It's interesting, but
I think you're right. To be honest, and not to just agree to agree. I think that you're right, but it still doesn't take away the fact that what I was saying was that there's a lot of power that we have just within ourselves. Imagine if we pooled our own dollars together to where we're not having to go to the city and look for them to do something or wait for them to do something. And one of the people I interviewed, Daryl McCray earlier, the owner of Bricks Barbershop, he talked about implementing and establishing a commission, you know what I mean, where we will funnel our own money through there. It was like, imagine if, how many people live in Albany? You know what I mean? Imagine if, you know what I mean, every person gave $100, right? Imagine if every person gave $1,000, right? We wouldn't need to be chasing and fighting for the same dollars that most of the organizations are fighting for. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, I gotta tear this person down so that way I can get this. This. You know what I mean? But imagine if those are things that we could do, even with the establishment being what it is. It's just a matter of having like-minded individuals decide to say, let me put my money, my resources, my time, because I can't change the world. I can't change the macro system. That's just the level of evil or what is put in that. It's going to take too much time, but I can change me and you. You know what I mean? We can say, well, this is what we're going to do with our time, with our energy, with our money. This is what we're going to go ahead and do. You know, and I think sometimes we end up getting fixated on the macro thing instead of the micro thing that we could do. And imagine if you had enough people doing the micro level things.
I mean, I think that's a great point, but I think that underestimates the depravity of the governance structure, right? Okay. So how sustainable is that, right? So let's say we keep that up for a year, right? Until until, you know, they create or until they do something to manipulate job growth in the Black community, right? Until they create laws, pass other mandates that kind of prevent us from coming together as a collective, right? And I don't doubt how creative they can get with trying to kind of stymie any progress that we make as a collective, right?
I agree.
So which is kind of why I don't think that, you know, Black capitalism is kind of the answer to liberation, right? Freedom, right? I don't think that's really the answer, because it's not really sustainable right now when they control, right? They govern us, right? So to me, that it's a great idea, and in a perfect world that would work, right? But I don't put it past them. Like 6 months down the line, they create a mandate that, you know, prevents, you know, or they create more loopholes, or, you know, something. I don't put it past them, and I might be too far off the grid with that one.
No. I think you're right on time.
You know, but I don't think that it's possible until, you know, with their governing influence. I don't think that's possible.
Okay. You actually just made me think about I did get a chance to watch Judas and the Messiah, and you made me think of what Fred Hampton has said. It was like, you know, we're not gonna meet capitalism with capitalism. He said, you know, we're gonna fight capitalism with socialism. You know what I mean? So, but okay.
Yeah. It's, that's a great move. We gotta have another discussion about that.
Okay.
I saw. That was a great movie.
Yeah. Let me see, man. Success is measured in many different ways. How do you measure success, and what keeps you motivated?
Well, what keeps me motivated is just trying to really be a role model, I guess, for Riley, or just being somebody that she could be proud of, right? And she can look back and say, oh, I remember, you know, my dad did this, or my dad was so smart, or my dad was so kind. You know, those are things that really keep me motivated. And I think in terms of success, to me now, it's really just having a level of knowledge of self, right? Like just being comfortable in who you are, knowing who you are, and not and just always being on your square in difficult times, challenging times, provocative times, right? Just being aware of who you are, and when you can be comfortable with who you are, right?
Okay.
And you have you're surrounded by love and people who love you for who you are. Right? That's kind of what I that is what I value success. Like,
Okay.
as today, I don't really I don't look at it at all in monetary gains.
Okay.
At all. I used to, obviously, right, have career aspirations and all that stuff, and you get there and all that stuff comes and goes, right? It's like what Sisyphus, right? I think Sisyphus pushing the rock, you get to the top of the hill and it just rolls back down. Now you gotta go down. That's kind of what life is when you value success that way.
Yep.
So I think the way I value it now is sustainable and practical. So yeah.
Okay. I like that. What about your life's path are you most proud of?
What about my life path that I'm most proud of? Like what event in my past that I'm most proud of, or
the answers I've heard is sometimes it's their children, sometimes it's an experience, sometimes it's something you overcame.
yeah, okay.
What about your life's path as Kashiff Thompson, the man, the father, the legend? What is it about your path that you are most proud of?
I would say the relationships. I mean, aside from family, right? Like, I would say the relationships that I was able to form with like the young people, right? Because I've been there, and I know that kids today, they don't trust anybody really. They don't really rock with anybody.
Facts.
And so like I have this thing. One second. This one of my students right here, former student, she did this like a TED talk. Her name's Mariah. And she I didn't really know what she was gonna talk about, but she got up there and she talked about our relationship and my role as a mentor, and like how significant it was in her life, and just how so like that's probably something I'm most proud of, especially like professionally, like the fact that I was able to have that relationship with a lot of students, and that they trust me and they value me and they appreciate me, and that they trust me, right? That's huge for me. So that's what I'm very, very proud of. And then to see them thriving and doing well, like that is huge. And then just proud of like things that I was able to like overcome, right? And not just like flatline when things got difficult. And just not quitting either. Especially like with school, right? Like I kicked out of college once, and just never giving up. Kicked out of college once, flunked out of college once, and then but always always sticking with it and trying to figure out what way of learning is going to work for me, right? What can I do, to make this lesson work, to make this topic work? Like, how can I get past this challenge, right? And so I guess going back to the Harvard days, sleeping in my car. Like I was sleeping in my car, wake up, go to the library, eat, study all day, class, sleep in my car, wake up, go to the library, eat, study all day, class, drive home. And just kind of doing that for 2 years and sticking that out when it was like hard, bro. Like it was hard, right? And then so yeah, that's what I'm like really proud of. And figuring out what was gonna work for me, overcoming that. Yeah, definitely proud of that.
I love that story, brother. And it was just like, to be able to see it in real time and and to still see you pull it off. You know, they always say from the outside looking in, I mean, a person can make it seem like it wasn't as tough as it was, and that's what it looked like from the outside looking in. But you know what I mean. But to hear your story, to see how you made that work for 2 years, and still having your life job here in Albany, and that's that level of sacrifice. Shout out to you for that, because that's a major accomplishment coming from where we come from. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was something. But
shout out to not flatline.
Yeah, not flatlining when it got hard. You know, sticking with it. Yeah.
Well, let me see, man. Actually, I got 2 more questions for you, and I'm gonna let you go, brother.
All right, we're good. Yeah.
Actually, I want to see how has traveling or relocation impacted your worldview?
Well, I mean, it's expanded it just being here in the DMV area, right? I'm in Virginia now, but we're, 15 minutes away from, several museums. So just being able to just having that constant exposure to different events that are happening, cultural events that are happening, that right there has expanded my worldview. So yeah, I mean, that would probably just be the best example of just having the exposure to different cultures and being able to explore these things with Riley, right? Like that's probably what I would say. So coming down here was definitely like the right choice.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sitting here just thinking about how fast you fell in love with the DMV area, man. And it's just like, he came down for a conference. Just like, holy moly, you know what I mean? And just like, you know what? We'll go home. Me and my wife gonna talk about this. And next thing you know, it's like, boom.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to that too. Like, with everything in Schenectady and Albany with work and stuff was crazy. And a student of mine that like I really cared. I care about all of them, obviously, but she had just died, and like every day I hadn't gotten over that. And every day I had like drive past and saw where it happened. Just having that void there, it was like very hard. But I noticed like when I was down here, I didn't really think about it as much. I didn't have to drive past it as much. Yeah. And I had a good time when we went out. So I was like, yeah, we're gonna move down here, and just like that. And then that's when I started applying to like schools and stuff down here. And so it worked out beautifully. So I'm glad I did. And but it definitely, if anybody's gonna do that, it requires more planning. But but yeah, I loved it. So.
Good. Yeah. Listen, I'm happy you did, and I'm happy for both you and Nye. Because I share the sentiments with that move too. You know what I mean? Just like I'm happy. So
thank you. Yeah, word. Yeah.
Well, let me see. Now this one is probably going to be your favorite answer. This will be my my final question for you tonight, though. Are there any resources like apps, books, podcasts, or social media accounts that you follow? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What keeps you inspired, Kashiff? Here's your opportunity to put the Albany community on game. With all of those books back there in that background.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a tricky one because it really just depends on what you're interested in. So, I mean, for me, whenever I suggest reading anything, especially, I guess, to young people, it always starts out with Letters to a Young Brother by Harper. I mean, this is really the book that kind of like changed my life. So I still read this every year just to remind myself of what it felt like when I first read this book. I mean, it really changed my life.
Open it up. I want to see if you got highlight markings in there.
In this one, I have a little bit, but not a lot. No, not in this one actually. You know why? This is a signed copy.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a signed copy.
No, I'm just messing with you, man. I finally just got to the point where I freed myself to be able to mark up my books. I would never mark up my books. Be like, I gotta put it all in here. So
no, I marked mine up, and in addition to that, I have a reading journal. It says reading journal right there. So like I take a lot of notes. But also my favorite book aside from that is The Warmth of Other Suns. And this really is the most comprehensive like African American history book to me, especially if we're thinking about postbellum African American society. It talks about the Great Migration, and it really it's a beautiful story. Her writing is beautiful, but it gives you a great history lesson as well. So those are like my two favorite books. But right now, really, I've been reading a lot of Dr. King because I've been kind of conflicted with these conversations that we're having about a movement, nonviolence versus violence, right? Complete separation versus integration. And so I'm trying to, and always kind of thinking of conflict, studying conflict. Dr. King was the center of a lot of conflict, right? Even amongst his own peers, right? Stokely Carmichael, Dr. King. So I've been reading a lot of his work because I feel like a lot of people are kind of missing his bigger picture. And I think if we kind of commit ourselves to his text, we'll see that he was on the same page with a lot of his peers. And I kind of see this happening in the public discourse as well, where we will attack each other. And I'm totally against attacking each other publicly, at least, publicly especially, because I feel like as long as we have the same end goal, right, we should be able to sit down respectfully and kind of figure out how can we get there with our differences, right? So I've been studying a lot of Dr. King lately. This one right here, right? I don't know if you can see that. A Single Garment of Destiny talks about Dr. King's global vision, right? And a lot of that is missed in his speeches. For some reason, we just kind of missed it. So I've been studying a lot of him. I haven't really listened to a lot of podcasts in a while.
Okay.
So really, just been reading a lot. I can go on and on, but really, if anybody has any like suggestions for me, please let me know. Or if you're looking for something, let me know too, and I can definitely share like specific topics. But yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, man, this
ramble on and on.
Hey, listen, this is good because it's like you are a wealth of knowledge just in one in one human form. And it's just like I said, man, I always think and Kashiff and I do hang out, right? And sometimes when we get together, we'll go to like a bookstore, right? And my wife would be like, "You two guys are some nerds," and he's like, "Yep." And the amount of change you can produce or be a part of by educating yourself, I think that is endless. I think that is powerful all by itself. So I love reading, and I can't get to this person's level of reading, but
I'm not anything.
He gives me something to aspire towards.
I'm not anything unusual. Trust me, I'm sure.
Oh no, you are unusual, brother.
No, I'm just a guy in low social demand, so that leaves me a lot of time to read. That's what I always say. Deanna hates when I say that, but that's what I always say. But also, like, I just want to circle back, like, when you talk about like education, I think that's why education is so, like, formal education, college education. I think that's why it is so important, because it teaches you like how to develop like a theoretical framework, right? Or better yet, like it helps you connect the dots to a lot of the things you're reading, right? And being able to study under somebody and being able to have access to information, right? You're not always going to get that if you go the untraditional route of not going to college, right? Even when you talk about just taking a couple classes, right? That right there can be life-changing as opposed to just enrolling in an institution. And I think a part of the problem is colleges aren't really living up to their end of the bargain, which is why this discussion exists in the first place, as to, is college necessary or important, right? Like, there's a great book, the case The Case Against Education by Brian Kaplan. He's an economist. And he basically talks about the goal of college. All college is right now for students is just signaling, right? They're signaling to the job market that they can, complete a task, right? That they can commit to something for 4 years, that they can have a certain level of GPA, right? But they're not really gaining anything of any substance, right? Basically, they're going to college to prove that they can, walk and chew gum at the same time. And I think a lot of that is because that's what colleges are kind of promoting. Another great book, just one more second, man, I'm sorry. Faithful to the Task at Hand, right? Really great book. So Lucy Diggs Slow, she was a dean at Howard University, but she's a lifelong educator, right? And she talked about how universities have a crucial role to play in the overall development of the student, right? Not just teaching them a particular topic so that they can move on, right? They can graduate, get the GPA and move on, but teaching them things of substance, again, right? Overall development, right? How to be the kind of person that they want to be. Colleges have to commit to that again. And you don't really see that at universities. And I think that is why a lot of this discussion as to whether or not college is necessary exists. But I just wasted 5 minutes of your time.
No. I mean, but I mean, my last part to throw onto that is that, part of it is the institution. Part of it is us as students too.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can have all of the resources and still choose not to do it. Like, we live in the most information friendly society right now. Like I said, I gave you that story earlier. It's like with Benson, like when he told me that I had to wait until we got computer time to get on the computer to find the answer or whatever. Now we got access to so much and we read so little. And it's just like, okay, I'd rather just get a quick answer. Let me go to Google and take the first answer that's gonna come up. And it's just like, that's not the full story. It's just like, even with, you ever heard the saying the greatest, the greatest form of flattery is imitation.
Yeah.
Right.
That, yeah.
So, you ever read the full context of that?
No, I've heard the phrase, but yeah, no,
yeah,
I never.
I didn't either, and that's the thing. So that that's the great example for me. Is just like, sometimes we end up taking the stuff that we just readily hear, and we never really dive into the full story or the context behind it. And then when you understand the context behind something, you'll stop using it in that way, because you'd be like, I understand that everybody else is using it that way, but that's not the full context in which it was actually developed. And that statement, and I already know you, after this, you're going to go back to go read it, but read it. Yeah, when you read the full context of the person who originally did it, then you'd be like, oh, that's not as flattering as most people think. So, So
I think that's how people interpret things. And again, like just not being able to, I don't want to say not being able to, but just not necessarily knowing how to connect the dots. Like education and information is a continuum, right?
Yes.
So you don't just learn something and it's not just this isolated fact that you can spit out to the world, right? You need to have the context and you need to know how it's going to apply to something else, right? Like whenever I get a book, right? Like I'll get a book and I'll look at the table of contents, right? That's like the first thing I'll do. Table of contents, right? Okay, let me see, give you a good idea of what it's about, right? But then I'm going to flip to the back and I want to look at the bibliography, right? I want to look at like what references that they use for this book, depending on the book, right? And I want to see like where they got a lot of their information from, what references they use, and then I'll go back and I'll read the introduction, right? Because I want to see how they put the entire thing together. I don't want to just look at the title, say, oh, this looks interesting, and kind of read it and then just kind of take it from there. No, I need to see bibliography. That's important. I need to see how they formed this opinion. I need to see where they got their information from. I need to see how they tie it all together, because that's going to help me move forward with the next book that I read, if I'm reading, if it's related to this topic, right? So those are things, again, that's just why education is important. Formal education is still important, and it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, and it shouldn't, but Yeah.
My next book is Gucci Man's autobiography. So before I start it, I'm gonna read the bibliography to see his reference points.
Well, not for an author, but that's a good book. That was a good book.
Yeah,
that was a really good book.
I can't wait to get to that book, but I got to get through Obama's book first. But that's my next book, and everyone's like, "Well, wow, that's a massive change, Tyrell." I like anything that has something I can be inspired from and learn from, and I love Gucci Mane's story. So I was making a joke, but I'm serious. I can't wait to see his bibliography.
That's a really good book. That's a really good book. It's really interesting, and his trajectory is it's crazy, or like the sequence of events that happen in his life, or just it's interesting. That's a good book. Yeah, I want to read Rick Ross's book. I never got a chance to, but I for that book I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the audio book, but he doesn't read the audio book, so you're not gonna, you know what I mean? Rick Ross got that voice where I can like hear him really motivating you through the words, but he doesn't do the audio book, so I got to read that, and I'm gonna pick up Obama's book again and kind of finish that because I want to talk about that with you because when I was getting so far, you know.
Hey, well, listen, man.
He's a beautiful writer, though.
Listen, his level of writing is out of this world. Shout out, a shout out to 44 for that, because anywho, brother, my last unofficial question for you, and I like to ask everybody this question: if I was going to interview somebody next for back, who would you recommend? You don't gotta tell me why, but who would you recommend?
Well, I would say I'd go back to some of the people that are doing the groundwork now in Albany. I don't want to say one person and then not say the other, but and not say another person. But I would Deshaun Moore actually comes to mind.
Okay.
I know he's doing a lot of work, and I know he was mentoring as well. So like that's one person that comes to mind, and I know he's very connected throughout the city. That's definitely one person that I would. Michael Barber. I always found him very, very interesting. And he's definitely been one of those people to kind of help me out early in my career, right? When I first started working like at state and stuff. I remember quick story though. I just remember when I first started working at the state, and it was during like caucus weekend, and he was kind of introducing me and teaching me how to network. And so he huddled around a bunch of guys and they were talking. I feel like it was a couple staffers from like, you know, assemblymen or senators or something like that. And so he's talking with them, and he reaches over, he looks over and sees me kind of sitting there looking stupid, just kind of waiting. And he like opens his hand out and kind of pulls me into the conversation. And just that gesture meant like so much to me, right? But anyway, I always found him very interesting. And I know he was involved in a lot of things in Albany at some point. I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years though, but he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him in years, but I haven't heard his name in a long time. So okay.
All right. Well, he's just one of those guys that it's just important to me, and from just those little things he did for me, you know, throughout the years. So yeah. Definitely.
Well, listen, Kashiff, thank you again. Thank you, back community, for staying tuned in with us. I love this man's story. I love him as a person. Kashiff, thank you for extending your time to us this evening, and I can't wait to get your story out to the Albany community, because we need to know more enthusiastic people who are rooted in knowledge and education, just like you. So shout out to you, and thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you. Let me just say, you know, how much I love Albany. I love everything about Albany. I plan to come back at when I finish my task here. We've talked about that before, and continue to work in the community. So, you know, I love Albany. So my daughter loves Albany too. She talks about it every day. She hates that we moved. So, you know, I just want to get that out there, just how much I love Albany, how much it means to me. Yeah. That's it.
All right. Well, hey, listen, Albany needs its sons and its daughters to come home. We got a lot of knowledge to pour into the city, whether it's virtually or physically there. So thank you for spending your time. And I look forward, like I said, to broadcasting your story to the world, brother. I'll play catch up with you next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Salute.